in keeping with Grace. She stared deeply into the black liquid that filled the white ceramic mug. As she slowly rotated her hand, she examined the frothy edges and noticed how they failed to cling to the sides. Is this my life? She wondered. Am I failing to cling to the sides? She exhaled deeply, notably felt her chest sink as every last modicum of oxygen vacated the two giant sponges that were, in every right, proper vessels of life. In any event, her chest fell sharply. She brought the mug to her mouth and with a shrug of her shoulders quickly swallowed every last drop. Down the hatch it went with as much ambivalence as the crushing of an ant. There were no thoughts of the ants' relatives and how they might feel, no thought of the hive's shockwave of grief or, at the very least, decline in productivity. She swallowed the tepid liquid with just as little concern, stuffed some papers into her bag with equal disregard for the crumpling sounds that ensured these items would no longer be beautiful, rose to her feet, and left the apartment. In her pocket she kept a pack of bubblicious bubble gum. She palmed it hotly with wild anticipation for the burst of gushy flavor such a large piece of goppy, saliva-inducing candy was sure to bring. Why not have two? She thought, feeling saucy. The gum had melted slightly, and the once firm tower of thick pieces, neatly stacked to form a singular rod, now gave a little under the pressure of her palm and felt a bit flexible even. Another reminder of her potential shortcomings. She brushed off this troublesome thought and opened the paper wrappers, peeling off the gooey treat with her teeth. The flavor was robust. Stopping at the crosswalk, she inserted the second piece. Her jaw was really working now, opening and closing quite dramatically to gnaw upon the ever-growing gob of gum. Why not a third, she thought. At least it lessens how mundane my days have become. In went a third piece. Perhaps it was too much, because she soon found herself pawing at her face, struggling to wipe up the saliva that oozed out like drool from a sleep-deprived toddler. She quickly became all too aware of the sticky nature of the spittle. The gum was too soon inserted. Her mouth was one big ball of elasticity and syrup. Her tongue rolled to navigate the ball away from the edges of her lips, where it invariably would push out more and more spit. My, she sure was salivating. An old woman sitting innocently on a bench caught her eye, and our heroine was immediately dissuaded from spitting out so large a wad of gum. Instead, she just kept gathering the sticky drool onto the backs of her hands. Then it happened. Like a grand thunderclap that reverberates through a valley, she was struck. Not philosophically with an idea, but literally with a truck. Struck is perhaps too strong a word, for the truck driver had indeed seen her and applied the brakes. Although his reflexes were to be desired, the impact nearly knocked our heroine Grace to the ground. Sporting a large-billed baseball cap, an oversized, unbuttoned, untucked flannel, and a skin-tight wife-beater, he exited his truck with his double chin sloshing loosely and his thick beard highlighting the paleness of his skin. He spoke with a strong southern accent as he beckoned, "Purty lady, may I help you to your feet?" Perhaps, needless to say, Grace was dazed, not by his good looks, no, but by the fact that she had been hit by a truck and was just now recovering her vision. Questions in her mind were these. Where am I? Why is it so bright? The Braves? Isn't that racist? Wow, that's a big chin. Does my chin look like that? A few scratches on her legs stung mildly, but she was, after all, in the middle of the street, and people did have places to go. She took the hand before her and rose to her feet. The man frowned unhappily. He seemed somehow disgusted as he freed himself from her grip. Straining to keep a congenial disposition, he wiped his hand firmly upon his jeans. The old woman on the bench continued to stare, her beady eyes made blacker under the lenses. "Are you okay?" he asked again, his long southern drawl disorienting. Grace blinked, looked about her, and started to collect her things. Our girthy truck driver hopped about with as much agility as a chicken. His legs appeared equally small by proportion, and his movements as surprisingly abrupt and lively. He collected her things much the way a chicken pecks at corn. Still stunned, more so by this strange man than by the impact, Grace clutched her pleather purse and continued on along the crosswalk. What a day. Knocked over by a truck driver and saved by a chicken. All while I've got beady-eyed Granny staring me down like I've made her late for her autopsy. Grace realized she was speaking out loud when the man next to her quickened his pace. She inserted her conspicuous Bluetooth earpiece. One last leg of the journey landed her right outside the courthouse. Finally, she could deliver the papers and settle the whole matter. As she approached the clerk, who sat fastidiously behind his sliding glass window, she couldn't help but to detect an air of alarm from beneath that sweaty comb-over. "Here," she said, much more aggressively than she had intended. "My dog's been vaccinated and he's not a threat to society." The papers were in utter disarray, all crumpled and filled with specks of asphalt and a pink, sticky substance that smelt strangely delicious. "Ma'am," the clerk began timidly, "there's something in your hair." Her mouth fell open limply upon catching her reflection in the dimly polished glass. The clerk raised his eyebrows as if he didn't know what else to say. A pair of scissors was in his outstretched palm. "Could these be of service to you?" "Delicious," she sighed sadly. "Sorry?" "I'm sorry, sir," Grace replied. I'll be off the phone in just a second." She returned the gesture, reaching out her empty palm, and accepted the scissors. "You wouldn't believe my morning." "Is that statement directed at me?" Unsure of which answer would be more appropriate, she simply said, "No." After an awkward pause, during which Grace did nothing with the scissors and then gave them back, she finally spoke. "So are my papers in good order?" The clerk shook himself, visibly attempted to rearrange the papers more neatly, and said, "Yes, ma'am, here's a permit. You can get your dog without any further delay." Suddenly moved by a wave of emotion, Grace seized his hand and said, "Cling to the sides. Just try and cling to the sides." As her tousled, gum-filled hair neared the exit, the clerk opened a wet nap and wiped his hands clean.